lives. Welcome to The Gift of Life with Gregg. I'm your host, Gregg Francis, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Barry Kaplan. We save lives, plain and simple. Have you known someone stricken with leukemia? Has a family member of yours suffered from lymphoma? Then turn up your dial. This show is for you. We are the gift providing a second life. We are the gift of life. Since 1999, we've saved over 2,700 lives. For many patients with blood cancer, bone marrow donation is often their last hope, and that's where we come in. We try hard at what we do, but we will never be satisfied until we can say, one day, we found a match anytime, anywhere, for anyone. That's the gift of life way. So now we have the scissors, we've opened the box, and now it's time to unwrap the gift of life.
Hello, everyone, and I wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day, a happy March 17th, 2015. Welcome to The Gift of Life with Gregg and Marty. I hope everybody had a wonderful week. I sure did. Last show recapped what motivates one to pursue their career choices. Was it from a childhood experience? Was it ingrained from you, from your family? And in my case, it was. There was an old Al Yankovic song that was, it was a parody of Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. It was Born to be a CPA. So my dad, may he rest in peace, he got what he wanted. Is it about meaning? Is your career choice about money? Work-life balance? We had many calls from people intending to be physicians to serving in the Peace Corps. So I really enjoyed last week's show. We were also treated to hearing from our campus ambassadors and the successes they've had this semester trying to serve recruiting people into the Gift of Life Bone Marrow Registry, high availability donors to hopefully save lives. So for those who've turned into last show, the show before that, and probably the last couple of months, you know that September is Blood Cancer Awareness Month. I know, it's March Madness. Let's go Terps. However, only creating awareness for 1 month will not solve the blood cancer epidemic. So we will continue to spread the word, and we ask our listeners to do the same. As I mention every week, Pacific Islanders are having a very tough time. Our Hispanic friends are underrepresented. Our Asian friends are underrepresented. Our African American friends and Haitian American friends are underrepresented. I had discussions again with some minority groups this past week, and they're suffering the consequences of people not swabbing, and people are needlessly dying because they don't know how to have the knowledge to traverse the waters or how to recruit bone marrow donors. Patients suffering from these aforementioned ethnicities will find a match less than 50% of the time if they are in need. That's unacceptable, and we must work harder. A very interesting article that came about. Yale football staff, our friends in New Haven, Connecticut. The staff of the Yale football team produced 3 bone marrow donors. According to the article published on March the 9th, 2015 in Fox News, about 12,000 people need transplants each year, yet only half will find the match that they need. That's why Marty and I put on this show every week so we could engage the community, educate community, and explain to people how they could get involved. Only about 25% of the time will you find a match within one's family. So that means 3/4 of the time, you're going to need a perfect stranger, an unrelated donor. But if an unrelated donor is not in the registry, and if you can't find somebody within your family, the greatest chance is somebody of the same ethnic lineage. If they're not there, unfortunately, you, your loved one, will pass away if you're suffering from blood cancer. We have to put an end to this. If you're interested in getting involved or running a drive, please call Bridget or Frederick at 1-800-9-MARROW to get information on how you could get involved. For those of you who have been our supporters, welcome back. And we thank you for all that you've done to spread awareness and transpire action for our show and for our cause. Because of you, we are ranked the #1 radio show on 1470 WWNN, our flagship station, as well as being the #1 bone marrow radio show worldwide. Yes, we got a lot of ribbing for that, but the show has reached so many people that I don't mind being on top. As previously mentioned, thanks to you, our supporters, our show is now syndicated in 6 cities. So more awareness, more people swabbing, more contributions, and the culmination of your help will equal more lives being saved. And that's exactly what we have to do. But on top of lives being saved, there's more. And we're going to get to that, and that's going to be the theme of today's show. In 2014 alone, Gift of Life was responsible for saving 130 lives, bringing our total to date to about 3,000. Congratulations, team at 800 Yamato Road, and congratulations to our listeners. Without all of everyone's collective efforts, we could never have made that happen. And as we started in 2015, I want to touch upon Arlene Feinberg, who was the matriarch of Gift of Life. Arlene unfortunately passed away in January of 2014. But Arlene had a vision when she was searching for her son, Jay Feinberg, who is the founder and the chief executive officer of Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation. They told Jay that his chances of survival were extremely bleak. And Arlene, as a mother, as a parent, and as someone that has a heart, would not take that for an answer. So she had a vision, and her vision was to find a match anytime, anywhere for anyone that is suffering from blood cancer. In 2015, on Gift of Life with Gregg and Marty, our collective goal is to make Arlene's vision Arlene's reality. And for those people who are tuning in for the first time, we're so glad that you could join us for Gift of Life with Gregg and Marty. I'm Gregg Francis, and alongside of me is my dear friend Marty Freund. Welcome to our show. We encourage all of our listeners to call in today at any time at 1-888-565-1470. Marty's looking right into the camera. We're both waving. Again, that's 1-888-565-1470. We broadcast live from Boca Raton, where it's about 82 degrees. The weather is getting quite nice. I think that we have another month of tolerable weather, and then it gets very, very warm. But with our friends in the Northeast having a horrific winter, they probably don't want to hear about 82 degrees. But we broadcast every Tuesday, 4 to 5 here on WWNN 1470 AM. Why are we here? We're here to spread awareness about the Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation, a life-saving nonprofit that gives patients like our 7-year-old friend Sammy a second chance at life. We want to remind everyone of how special life is, how every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. Please take stock of what I'm saying, and I'll continue to say it. Every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. Before I go any further, I have to thank my own gifts of life, people who make me smile every day, keep things in check, and remind me of how lucky I am. To undoubtedly my biggest fan, my mom, Katie, who is listening in Bellagio on Lake Worth today. Hello, Mom. Hello, Miriam. Hello, Jerry. To my biggest Maryland fans, hello and thank you, Grandma Margie, as well as the chairman of our board, Bill Beagle, who could promote Gift of Life in 6 states and 2 countries within a week. Bill, thank you for doing what you've done for the past 2 decades. And to my 2 boys who are my gifts of life, Nicholas, who is 12. Nicholas, you made principal's list at school. I'm extremely proud of you. You made me a proud dad. And Patrick, doing great in school, and I'm coaching you in Little League, and it really gives me purpose in life to be a father. Patrick's 8. I love you. And Marty and I, being avid Jets fans, and to our Jets fans that are listening, I want to welcome back, and Freddie Santorio, hope you're listening. Welcome home, Revis, and welcome home, Crow. So our secondary is back. It gives Jets fans some a little hope, and hopefully we'll do a little bit of damage. I still hope they go with Marcus Mariota in the draft, but we will see. Welcome also Brandon Marshall. Since last show, we had a lot of Jet activity, but Reeve, welcome home. As mentioned, our co-host for 2015 is my dear friend Marty Freund. Marty stewards all the walks that we have, which include, listen to this, Boca Raton, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, D.C., Virginia, Massachusetts, and in 2016, we're looking at Chicago. That's a lot for one person's plate. She also brings a wealth of experience for Gift of Life with community relations, community engagement, and really building up the volunteer program. I'm excited that Marty is joining us, and Marty has a few events to tell us about. So Marty mentioned just Boston a few seconds ago. I know that we have our first Boston Walk on the books.
Yep, and we are having a committee meeting tomorrow night in Boston with our dear coworker Alec Birkin. And we have a great group of about 16 people attending. And again, we're looking for their help in building our first walk there in Boston over at Chestnut Hill Reservoir and getting the community involved in a really great day. A donor is going to be meeting her 3-year-old transplant recipient. So it's going to be quite a memorable event.
You're going, I'm going. It's very exciting. The Boston committee, are they going to be meeting in person for the first time?
This will be the second time. Yes, the first time meeting in person.
That's what I thought because of the
first time was another blizzard yet again. So it was a call-in, and this time will be the first time in person. So hopefully it'll be really nice. There's a lot of donors and transplant recipients in the area that probably have never met one another but live really close to each other. So it'll be nice to connect them together.
That's great. And we have a campus ambassador, Michael Podolsky, that goes to Boston College. Mm-hmm. And Michael is represents the Boston College Eagles. So we're hoping that all the Eagles come out in fine fashion.
Right. And what's also exciting is the donor who will be meeting her recipient at the walk actually swabbed at one of Michael's drives on BC's campus. So she is also a BC alumni.
Okay, so there's a lot of colleges and universities in the greater Boston area. It's right outside of Chestnut Hill, so I expect the BC Eagles to represent us in fine fashion. And really, really looking very excited for this first time in Beantown.
Yeah.
So, all righty. Next on the agenda, maybe we'll go out of order. I know that you and I are... You're going to have to hold up our team because I'm playing on one leg. We have a golf tournament on the 30th.
Yes, we do. And Gregg is not lying when he says he's playing with one leg. He's trying to show me his boot as we speak. I see it every day, Gregg. It's still there.
It's still there.
So it should be interesting to see Gregg golf with a boot if they let that on the course.
It'd be interesting to see Gregg golf without a boot, but...
So again, Gift of Life is participating in the Boca West Community Foundation golf tournament with the hopes to win. Maybe your bum foot will give us some good luck.
Yeah, some good luck or better handicap. But
we're playing with a great group of, we have a team of 20 this year, and poised to win, of course. No, I don't know. We're just excited to be a part of the day and to have the opportunity to play and to be a part of the Boca West Foundation and their generosity. So,
yeah, Marty, this is our third year. The inaugural event we actually won. It was a perfect storm, but everybody that plays wins because it's helping the children of Palm Beach, the financially underprivileged. So it's a great event, and we're playing with 15 others of our brother and sister charities in the greater Palm Beach area. So again, great group of people that do a lot for the children and folks of Palm Beach. And definitely, if you want, you could attend the event. You could come to dinner, support the Gift of Life team. Certainly make a contribution on behalf of testing kits over at Gift of Life. If you are interested, call up 1-800-9-MARROW. For people that like things numerically, that's 1-800-9-MARROW. 962-7769. And Marty, I know that golf is a lot for one day, but it even gets better. We have a Jay Leno event the next night.
Jay Leno coming March 31st. Actually, my parents' anniversary. Maybe they'll attend as their anniversary present.
Happy early anniversary, Wendy and Mel.
Yep. So the Jay Leno event is the following evening on the 31st. If you are on our email list, you might have just received an e-blast that you can purchase tickets to Jay Leno through Gift of Life. Tickets are $150, and 100% of the ticket sales when purchased through Gift of Life will benefit Gift of Life. So
actually, I did get an email that tickets are running out. They're running out of tickets. So
it's limited to 2,000. So get them.
Yeah, it's
be there, be square.
Be there, be square. It's on the Great Lawn.
Atlantic City Boys.
Yep, the Atlantic City Boys will be there, and their billboard sign happens to be up there also playing at the Hard Rock. So
oh, really?
Yes.
Is this a warm-up show, or is this the after show?
No, the Hard Rock is the warm-up show. They're really coming out to play with Jay Leno.
Nice.
So this is going to be great. So golf and Jay Leno, again, as Marty said, $150 per ticket. The whole proceeds, the whole price of the ticket goes back to Gift of Life. So see a great show and help save lives. It'll be a great evening. And as Marty said, limited to 2,000 people, so everybody has a good seat.
Yep, on the Great Lawn.
It is Great Lawn, great show. So have you ever seen Leno before?
I haven't, but I've heard great things.
Are you going?
I got to see if I can get a babysitter. I don't think it's kid-friendly.
It's not. I don't know that it's kid-friendly.
I don't know if he's PG or if he's G. I'm still at the G.
Okay, no, that's no. Right now, I think that it might not be G, but nonetheless, it'll be a great show. So we're certainly looking forward, and what we're going to talk about today after the break is something unique. Over the course of this show, we've shed tears over success stories, and we've shed tears for those that we lost. We focused on the physical remission and those that are cancer-free. But what we're going to focus on today for those that become cancer-free and they're reinstituted into, let's say, a more normative life where they don't have to worry about taking their next blood test, their next oncology appointment. A lot of their support system is, unfortunately, from a medical perspective and a mental perspective and emotional perspective, pulled out from under their feet once they're given the positive diagnosis that they're cancer-free. And some people are suffering the consequences that it's a radical shift in event that they're not quite ready to handle. So we have some interesting articles and some interesting conversations to speak about today. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk about, is the medical profession doing enough post-cancer? We'll be back in a few.
ThrowItBetter.com. Do you need help with your bowling game? Are you taking the right 5-step approach? If you want to become a competitive bowler, even a recreational bowler that's considering joining a league, or a league bowler that is considering joining a tournament, you need to see Vince. He's going to show you how to throw it better. He'll get you the right equipment. He'll show you the right approach. And as a certified coach, he'll put you in the best position to succeed. If you're interested, please contact Vince at throwitbetter@gmail.com and tell him that Gregg sent you. Again, that's throwitbetter@gmail.com, or call Vince at 954-541-5414.
We want to extend a special thanks to our friends at the Boca West Foundation for all the wonderful work they do for Gift of Life and for all the meaningful service they give to the Boca Raton community. For over 3 years, the Boca West Foundation has generously supported local charities in the Boca Raton area. The Boca West Foundation, it's all about the kids. Are you in the market for a health plan? If so, please visit my good friend Gary at Health Plans Unlimited. No plan is too big or too small. Gary will customize a plan that's affordable and comprehensive, just for you. If you're interested, please visit Gary Goldman, the best in the biz, at www.healthplansunlimited.com. Again, that's www.healthplansunlimited.com. Or you can call Gary Goldman directly on his personal line at 954-303-6676. Again, that's 954-303-6676. And tell him that Gregg sent you directly from the Gift of Life. Health Plans Unlimited. We have the health plan for you. Welcome back to the Gift of Life with Gregg, the show that talks about giving and receiving. If you'd like to call into our show, we'd love to hear from you. Please call 888-565-1470. Again, that's 888-565-1470. And now, back to our show.
Welcome back to the Gift of Life with Gregg and Marty. It is a beautiful St. Patrick's Day here in Boca Raton, Florida. And I believe that we have a caller on the line. Brianna, are you there? Brianna, welcome to Gift of Life with Gregg and Marty. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Is this my friend Brianna from Emory?
It is.
How's school going, firstly?
This has been a very busy semester. It's my first semester in the business school, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the classes that I'm taking. And it's been great here running drives and keeping busy with Gift of Life as well.
Oh, so you have a full plate. What's the name of the business school? Is it something with a G?
Goizetta.
All right. My mind is still working. No, it's a very good business school. What are you majoring in?
I'm majoring in business with a concentration in strategic management and consulting with a sub-concentration in business and society and double majoring with sociology.
Oh, Brianna, you sound busy.
Yeah, you sound busy, but that's what I got. I got my master's in strategic consultation in business. Okay. So I know what you're going through. In fact, I found it very interesting. I enjoy it. So tell us how your Gift of Life experience is going. As mentioned on last week's show, Brianna is another one of our campus ambassadors. And Brianna, how has the drives been coming?
The drives have been, they've been coming along. I did one at the Black Student Association Gala at the end of February to celebrate Black History Month. So it was very cool seeing everybody suave in their nice gowns and suits. I've done another one at a fraternity where one of the brothers actually donated bone marrow through Gift of Life. So it was very personal. It was very personal to them, so that was a big success. I have a drive coming up in a couple weeks with some more fraternities and sororities on campus, and everyone's very excited about them, and I'm looking forward to speaking to chapters.
That is amazing. One of my real dear friends and also a work colleague, Nick Hudson, also attended Emory, which I guess you know. Right.
Yeah. So we've bonded over that.
And although I didn't go to Emory, I bonded with him as well because he saved a little boy that's doing fantastic. And after graduating law school, Nicholas decided to work for a Gift of Life. The question that we asked some of the other campus ambassadors, Brianna, that we want to ask you as well, is what advice would you give the new campus ambassadors that are going to be joining for the 15-16 academic year?
My biggest piece of advice would be to start reaching out with friends and some acquaintances, because there are so many of my friends that I've mentioned Gifts of Life to in my campus ambassador internship, and they have told me that they're presidents of organizations and they would love to help out. And I've learned so much about my friends, and I've been able to network and been able to schedule drives with people that I had no idea how involved they were.
No, that's a very interesting answer. And now we'll try to couple your academics with Gift of Life. What do you think would be one of the best strategies for running a drive to maximize the number of high availability donors?
I think one of the best strategies to run a drive has to start with promotion, and just by publishing publicizing all around campus, but also to be going to events where you, knowing the types of people, knowing your target audience for each type of event, and having the materials available for that audience. So when I was at the Black Student Association, I had materials about how the drive is relating to minorities and why it's so important that minorities are swabbing to join the drive. For the fraternities, I'm currently working with AAPI, and Nick swabbed through AAPI, and that's how he was able to save that little boy's life, who's now 12. So by telling them that personal story and how it relates directly to their chapter, they came right on board.
That's really a great answer. And it's the same thing that we try to promote for all our university drives and community drives. You have to cater it to the audience that you're speaking with so it'll hopefully resonate. And Brianna, I think that you said that beautifully. What has the internship, how have you grown personally?
I've developed a lot of business skills from this. I've learned how to target my audience. I've learned how to network. I've learned how to, even as simple as properly sending an email without giving too much information in the beginning, and how to relate it, all the information, all the necessary details as the process goes along. That's been great for me as I'm developing as a professional.
It's been great. It's great to hear your voice. As I remember, you were on this show here towards the middle of December, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
And no, you've come a long way. What year are you in right now, if you could tell our listening audience?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay, so you have still a lot of great work ahead of you at Emory. I hope that you enjoy every minute and learn as much as possible. But I can't thank you enough on behalf of Gift of Life for being a fantastic ambassador and certainly putting our word out at the university level.
Thank you so much for letting me call in today and be a part of this amazing internship.
No, please don't be a stranger to the show. You've been in studio before and call. Please feel free to call in whenever you like. It's great hearing from you.
And we love your pictures, Brianna, that you posted on our Facebook and to Twitter. We love them.
Great, I'm glad.
All righty. Be well, and we'll speak with you real soon.
Sounds good. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Okay. It was great to hear from Brianna from Emory University. As Marty and I were speaking before the break, very, very interesting conversation that I had this week, and very interesting article that I read, in fact, today in the Times. And via phone, it's a very important topic, and it's emotional distress after full remission. And I spoke to a lady last Thursday who felt guilty about being depressed. So she set up an emotional support group for cancer survivors. And she was developing severe panic attacks, depression, worry, guilt. And it compromised her social life, her physical life, her financial life, etc. And I thought about that. And most people believe is once the physical complications subside and you get a clean bill of health from your physician oncologist, that everything goes away. But the way that she explained it to me, it was like a post-traumatic stress disorder. And when you think about it, during those times, you're thinking about, when is my next blood draw? When's my next oncology appointment? I have to check in with my loved ones. They're going to want to know that I'm okay. And just when you get the physical okay, it seems like the emotional support gets dragged from under your feet, because doctors have active cancer patients, to work with. In the next story that I'm going to tell you, it's by Sulikia Jaoud, titled, and it's a beautiful piece that's in today's New York Times, so if you could read about it online, it's definitely a great read. And it's titled Lost in Transition After Cancer. And here's a very interesting quote. "It took me a long time to be able to say I was a cancer patient. Then for a long time, I was only that, a cancer patient. She was 22 years old when she was diagnosed with cancer and went into remission at age 25. Her plight with cancer didn't afford for her to have a traditional life. As mentioned with the young lady that I spoke with last week, her life was consumed with doctor's appointments, blood tests, the barrage of phone calls from family and loved ones. Now that she is physically free of cancer, much of the emotional stress continues, but the emotional and physical support dwindles. In essence, she lost her medical team, support group, and to an extent, her identity. Her medical team is for good reasons. As mentioned before, it's because they have patients right now that are actively trying to beat cancer. The support group, because she doesn't need it, because most people think once you survive, you don't need a support group. But for me, a person's body could rarely turn on and off like a switch. That's why I was telling Marty before we went live, football fascinates me because they're like mercenaries for 8 seconds and then they have to come back to a normative state. That's why I'm fascinated with the sport. But moving forward within this story, so this lady who was consumed by cancer at age 22 fought cancer for 4 years, is now cancer-free, but she quotes, "I feel far from being a healthy 26-year-old woman." So I started thinking about this, and the question that I'm posing today to our listening audience are, cancer survivors or loved ones of survivors adequately prepared for readjusting after trauma? We have post-traumatic stress disorder, which is greatly aligned to the return of war veterans. But where is the emotional treatment for cancer after survival? And I'll open it up to you, Marty.
Well, I mean, I think that she probably has a fair point saying that her whole life consists of doctor's appointments and every second of her day is probably consumed with either appointments or blood tests or calls from loved ones. And once she's cancer-free, all of that stops. Maybe it doesn't necessarily stop for everyone. But at the same time, as I said to you, she should probably remind herself that she's cancer-free versus people whose doctor's appointments and blood tests don't stop. So I think maybe it's a double-edged sword.
That's exactly, and that was the beauty of the article that she wrote. She said that she feels guilty for being depressed, being anxious, because she's one of the lucky few that, or lucky many, however you put it, that survived. There's a lot of people right now that are still fighting that cancer battle. What still goes on is the fear of the cancer returning, where she once was receiving psychiatric treatment along with her physical treatment. The psychiatric treatment, the insurance is not covering anymore because she's cancer-free. So it was a great book by Atul Gawande, and it was about mortality. And we spoke about this on the show. Doctors are prepared to treat people, but what happens after they're treated? It doesn't seem like there's enough focus for the emotional after effects. And it really is, it's really a very, very interesting topic. We have a caller right now. Nick, you're on the phone. Hey, Nick, it's welcome to Gift of Life with Gregg and Marty.
Hey, Greg, what's going on? Marty, how's everything going?
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Nick, we're talking about an interesting topic. I don't know if you heard. We're talking about cancer survivors, that they still have a significant amount of emotional trauma from their journey, and it seems like their medical support staff and a lot of their emotional support staff subsides because she's given a physical clean bill of health. But all the angst that has been dealt with for the last, in this case, 4 years, still is harbored inside and is not the proper outlets to get out. So that's
Sure.
what we're discussing today. Do you, Nick, do you think that we're doing enough post-survival rate to deal with people's emotions and mental capacity?
I think right now it's probably a little behind, being able to deal with patients through Gift of Life. I think you definitely see a lot of the issues that, that you discussed, that article brings up. A lot of times people's lives, not a lot of times, every time people's lives are completely overturned when they get a diagnosis like that. And, some patients talk about it and they use a term called the cancer calendar, where suddenly, that becomes what you do every single day, and it's the first thing you check off. There's no such thing as a social calendar anymore. There's no such thing as a work calendar. It's just the cancer calendar. And it really does, for all intents and purposes, takes over your life. And when that suddenly goes away for a positive reason, there's suddenly this vacancy there. And, natural tendencies would just say, oh, that's a good thing. But I think just anytime, someone goes through a severe change like that, even for the better, it's going to have some effects. And I think I certainly have heard that from patients who are happy, obviously, and who are ecstatic that they don't have to go through this and live through this. But at the same time, that diagnosis still kind of follows them. One patient told me once that it's kind of like a shadow, who there's always that fear that it will come back, and that the transplant didn't stick or that the therapy didn't stick. There's that fear, and there's also, all the time that it took up and all the time that was lost. Regardless of age, you look around at your friends and family who have done other things in the meantime while you just essentially had cancer. That's one particular patient was in his 30s, and he's like, from 35 to 39, I had cancer. I didn't go on vacation. I didn't have children. I didn't get a promotion. That's what I did for those years. And I think those things, those stick around, and those are kind of the invisible part of the diagnosis that we hope goes away, but it really sticks around. So to answer your question, I certainly think as more people are affected by the illness, it will come a long way, and it'll probably play some catch up. I think that there'll probably be some increase in the amount of aftercare that's done, whether it's through hospitals or through groups like Gift of Life, who start programs that are aimed at people who are going through that. I think that's probably the next step for people as a form of treatment, even though we don't really think of it like that.
There's an interesting piece. You made a great point, Nicholas, by Sulika Jawad, and if I'm getting your name wrong, I apologize. It was submitted online in the New York Times, March 16th at 5:01 p.m. An interesting quote right here. When I finished my last cycle of chemotherapy in April of 2014, friends and family congratulated me on being done. What they couldn't know was that in some ways, the hardest part of my cancer experience began once the cancer was gone. And Nicholas, you and I talked about this online. In the Jewish religion, it's called Shiva, and in the Catholic religion, it's called Awake. But after somebody perishes, there's friends and family that surround you for a period of time after the funeral, or before the funeral, after the passing. And it seems like it's the same pattern in this case. The friends and family go away, and you still have those thoughts and experiences in your head that you don't have the right avenues to get out and speak through and try to rehabilitate your mind.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, like any other kind, it is a loss, even though it's a positive loss. It's definitely, that sounds kind of silly to say, but it's a positive, loss. Like any other loss, you're used to having all that support around you, and whether it's Awake or saying Shiva, people who have lost, others and loved ones, I think everyone can identify with that. How months later, that's often the hardest part, because, you expect to have grief in the beginning, but you also expect to have the support. And then weeks and months later, the grief stays, but the support goes. And that, that's not a shocker that someone who even, who is cancer-free will have that same feeling, So I think there's definitely work to be done, whether or not it's even small things like celebrating, We call them gift life like transplant anniversaries.
Correct.
I think that stuff is nice to celebrate, and while we kind of not make light of it, but try to make it happy and smiley. I think deep down there's something really important there, because it does remind people in a certain way of what they've accomplished by by living another year, and what they people still need the support. And I think that little things like that make a big difference, probably more than we think.
It's very, Nicholas, thank you so much for the phone call, and keep up the good work. We just spoke to one of the campus ambassadors, Brianna from Emory, your alma mater. So keep up the good work, and thank you for calling into the show.
No, thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Yeah, Nick brought up a good point. I'm going to read another quote from this article, Marty. We like to think of the end of cancer treatment as the closing of a chapter, but what most people don't realize is that the emotional struggle continues long after. Dr. Kevin C. Offinger, a primary care physician and director of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center's adult long-term follow-up program, told recently over the phone, and I quote, "Feelings of post-treatment depression and anxiety are amazingly normal. I would go so far as to say that if you don't have them, it's a surprise," end quote. So again, in this article, what's really honest and gut-wrenching by Jawad is that she knows she's in the lucky few, but by the same token, she feels very much alone in that her life as the way it was in normal state for 4 years while treating this heinous disease, which she beat, could not come across one day 180 degrees, that it's really a process, and that the medical system, the medical community right now hasn't caught up with post-treatment emotions, and it seems like we're very reactive in that respect. I know that this piece and the lady that I spoke with last week, it really, really moved me.
Well, I think it would be interesting also to see the ages of people who are suffering this post-treatment stress and where they are in their lives. I mean, people are diagnosed with illnesses from being a few months old to being, into their 70s and 80s. So I think depending upon where people are in their own lives, this probably affects their recovery post-treatment.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. I'm so sensitive to what she's going through with the anxiety, with the lifestyle change. By the same token, I think from this article, she realizes that she's a very lucky individual, because a lot of people are still fighting that battle. So it's really a juxtaposition of two emotional spectrums. Right now, we have Alec on the phone. Forgive me, I don't want his mom to get mad. Alec, welcome to Gift of Life with Greg and Marty. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good. Are you going to congratulate us for getting Revis?
No, I'm not. I am quite upset. It's just when you feel like you're doing so well, you win the Super Bowl, and the whole team leaves. It's a little depressing. But we still got Bill and Tom, and Bill we trust, so we're going to push on forward.
Yeah, and you have Brady, and
your whole team is Brady.
But you want to know something? I don't feel bad for the Patriots fans. I was born in 1969. That's the last time the Jets won the Super Bowl, and it's now 2015. And with who we have under center, I don't see us winning a Super Bowl in the near future. But Al, on today's show, we had the privilege of speaking with Brianna from Emory, a great individual that really has a good strategic mind on how to run drives. And secondarily, we're talking about today the emotional battles that cancer patients are still scarred with after beating the physical disease. And the question that I'm posing to you, Al, is, do you think that the medical community is doing enough from an emotional and mental capacity to help these patients that beat the dreaded disease?
certainly, and it's a very interesting point that you guys are bringing up today. And fortunately, I haven't had the opportunity myself to be put in this position. But in my experiences, and one thing that I can certainly relate this to is the fact that in our line of work we have the amazing opportunity to introduce donors and recipients. Individuals that have actually been connected by blood in one way or the other, and are now having elapsed the 1 year anonymity period, have the opportunity to meet one another. And for some individuals, recipients, they are not comfortable with meeting their donors. And, upon explaining this to people that are sort of unfamiliar with the process, I think that comes off a bit harshly, but, in understanding that it might just be a very hard thing to, just recover and relive, I kind of understand, a lot of the time where they're coming from in not wanting to relive those horrible memories or be exactly as you mentioned, bring up the scars that were so difficult to deal with.
So Al, you brought up a great segue. Could you explain to our listening audience what the process is for a donor and recipient to meet?
Sure, I'd be happy to. As the listening audience may or may not know, a transplant happens, and it is a completely anonymous donation over 75% of the time. So 25% roughly have the opportunity to find a donor inside of their immediate family, whereas 75% of individuals have to go towards the anonymous bone marrow registries, which Gift of Life is one of, and rely on a complete stranger to save their life. So in this case, the transplant happens, and then they have to wait at least 1 year in America, and other countries throughout the world have differing regulations, some which prohibit the meeting of individuals forever. And as long as both parties are completely healthy after that year-long period and consent to meet one another, then they have the opportunity to do so. But I think, in our experiences at the Gift of Life, we have seen almost every situation play out, in which case sometimes the donors don't feel comfortable meeting because they think it might devalue the face of their initial gift. I think we've seen that some recipients don't feel comfortable meeting because they don't feel comfortable bringing up the past, and exactly as you guys are alluding to, sort of reliving the harsh memories. And then oftentimes we are able to coordinate this meeting, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's one of the best parts of our biggest fundraisers that we host all throughout the country, is the introduction of a bone marrow donor to the person whose life they saved.
Alec, that was extremely well put. And that's what it is. It's such a beautiful thing and a perfect storm for a donor and recipient to actually meet. Not only does the donor, unrelated, is going through the process as you did, which you're a hero of mine for doing, not only does the donor go through the process without ever knowing if they were going to meet the person whose lives that they saved, but then both sides have to consent to meet. And when they meet, it's emotional, as Marty mentioned before, and Al being from the Boston area. We're having our walk on April the 26th, where a donor, I believe, is going to meet a child recipient, right, Marty?
Right.
So it's extremely emotional. I have heard of instances before where there was an uncomfort level of meeting because of, Al, what you just mentioned, that either that they wanted to keep it in anonymity for religious, spiritual reasons, and or that the wounds are still too fresh. So
Right.
Again, whatever anybody's desires are, I full most respect. And it's just it's complicated being on the spectrum, because I know right now that people who are fighting the cancer battle right now may not have sympathy for the lady that wrote the article today. But if you take a step back and see what somebody was immersed in for the last 4 years, it's very, very draining. It's very draining.
Couldn't agree more. And I guess, just to bring it full circle and really answer your initial question, I don't think it's so much exclusively the medical community that might be failing to really provide the, advocacy and the support to these cancer patients that are helping out, but it might just be, more of a individual circumstantial basis in which it's really a personal decision, and as to whether they want to continue living their life with cancer on their shoulder or try to move past it and relinquish all ties with that time in their life.
It is. It's. Yeah, I lost my father to cancer when he was 59, and it took me trying to be stoic. It took me a couple of years till after he passed, and it still shook me up because it's somebody that you look as a reference to a point of strength, and yet you have to be strong for your own family. So different people different things affect people at different points. But Al, I think your insight was tremendous. Keep up the good work, and excited to hear from some more campus ambassadors next week.
Certainly. Thanks, Marty, and thanks, Greg. Have a great rest of the show.
All right, I love you. Thanks for everything that you do.
Okay, so bye, guys.
Bye.
And but before we go off this topic, I do see some help in the future. And again, there's a quote by Dr. Offinger from the article Transition After Cancer. It was written at 3/16, March 16th, 2015, New York Times. It was published at 5:01 p.m. While an increasing number of cancer treatment centers have begun offering post-treatment care plans and support groups, which unfortunately at the time Mrs. Jawad didn't qualify for. The help is to support patients in navigating the challenges. Still, many patients continue to fall through the cracks. And Dr. Offinger says, and I quote, "Sometimes we do a good job of preparing people for this, but often we don't. We need to do a better job." So again, there's so many things that we think of, unfortunately, reactively. Again, the moral of this story, I think, is that this young lady beat a dreaded disease, but being immersed for 4 years, it's hard to turn your mind off like a switch. And there's going to be some emotional rehabilitation that she's going to have to go through. Again, it's a great analogy from Atul Gawande's book, Being Mortal, where physicians are trained to keep people alive, and not so much to explain to them transitioning into latter years and transitioning into mortality. By the same token, if you do stay immortal for the time being, there might be some residual complications of when you were affected by your disease or illness. So again, it's a very interesting phenomenon, and we had 4 people from FAU Medical School that were here a few times on the show, and the softer side of medicine is something that really is being embedded into the curriculum, I know, at least at FAU, which I was very, very happy to hear. So it was a very, very interesting show today. I found the topic to be extremely interesting, and we'll certainly move forward. I got nervous. We didn't hear from Frankie today, so I was just going to say that in jest. But Frank, my heart was palpitating a little bit because I didn't hear from you. How are you, my boy?
It's good. I just snuck in there today, right under the buzzer. The buzzer beater call, Frank.
Yeah, well, the March Madness tournament's coming up, so that's a great segue.
That is correct.
And is it safe to say, being from New York, that you might be a Red Storm fan?
Of course, I'm a Red Storm fan. So this is the time of year, Greg. I pony up and I get excited to lose $200 and then hide that from my wife. because I never win a pool.
Maybe this year will be your lucky year. So Frankie, my good man, what do you think about our discussion today about the residual emotions that one may have after battling cancer?
I think it's a very good point, and to be honest, one that knuckleheads like me don't really think about very often. I would tend to think that okay, you're out of the hospital, good for you, jumping for joy, and then obviously there are other issues that continue. So this kind of thing I think is good for people to hear because you don't really think about this kind of thing. If you don't do it for a living or if you don't know someone who went through it, you probably never consider these kind of things come up. But it obviously is a problem for enough people, and it's a very serious problem and one that I think it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, we're not really doing those people justice in terms of their treatment.
It's really the way that I phrase it is emotional debilitation. And that's where I think that the medical community, I know that they have so much on their plate and their patient load is so high as it is. But hopefully we could get more of those transitional phases to coincide the emotional and the physical. And Frankie, I did get the buzzer beater and it looks like a 3-pointer and it's good. So thank you, Frankie, for calling in. And we'll speak next week after the first round of games.
All right, everybody. Have a good week and good luck in your practice.
All right. I thank everybody for listening today. It was a very interesting show. Thank you to our callers. And we'll be back on March 24th at 4 p.m. here in Boca. I wish everybody a happy, healthy, and safe St. Patty's Day. Have a great week, and God bless you all.
Thanks for tuning in to The Gift of Life with Gregg. I wanted to personally say thank you to everyone who participated in today's show. And I also wanted to let you know that you're interested in what we do here at The Gift of Life, please call 1-800-9-MARROW. That's 1-800-9-MARROW. Or you can visit our website at www.giftoflife.org. Again, that's www.giftoflife.org. Even though we're wrapping up our show today, remember, you must always unwrap the gift of life.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station.